Section 8.3, Video 2. For the next section of exercises, it'd be good to have some definitions. The break-even point is the selling price that covers the cost of the item plus operating expenses. Remember that a break-even point is when you don't make money, you don't have a profit, but you also don't lose any money. The reduced net profit is when you have a selling price that's more than the break-even. So just think profit. An operating loss is a selling price that's less than the break-even point. So you're selling your item for less than what it would cost you to not make any money. An absolute loss means that you're selling an item less than you purchased the item, less than the cost of the item. So an operating loss includes the operating expenses and the cost. That's how we get the break-even point, where an absolute loss is really just comparing the sale price of the item with the cost of the item. A couple of formulas that go with those definitions. The break-even point is the cost of the item plus operating expenses. An operating loss is a subtraction comparing that break-even point. Again, the break-even point means you don't make money and you don't lose money for the business, minus the selling price. So this is the sale price. So think of this as the sale price. An absolute loss is the cost of the item minus that sale price. So when we're talking reduced, it means that the price of the item has been reduced, meaning it's on sale. Let's try question 4. The cost of the item is $50. As a reminder, cost means the cost to the store. So the store owner bought the item for $50. The break-even point is $66. To find the operating expenses, we would use that break-even point formula. So I'm going to abbreviate break-even equals cost plus operating expenses. We know that the break-even point is $66, the cost is $50, and we need to find those operating expenses. Let me subtract $50 from each side, and I get $16 for those operating expenses. This blank right here. For an operating loss, it means that you're selling the item for less than the break-even point. So the operating loss is looking at the break-even minus the sale price for the item. The break-even was $66. Now remember, the break-even means that in order to not make money or lose money, the item should be sold for $66. However, the sale price of the item was $44. So the store sold the item for less than their break-even, and that loss is a $22 loss. An absolute loss means you're selling the item for less than the cost to the store. So this is going to be an absolute loss is the cost of the item minus the sale price. In this case, the cost of the item was $50 and the sale price was $44. And that means that the item was sold for $6 less than the store owner paid for it. That's an absolute loss. So not only did they lose money on the item, but they also didn't recover any operating expenses. Let's try question 5. In this case, we know the cost of the item and the operating expenses, and that can help us find the break-even point. I'm going to abbreviate break-even with BE is our cost plus our operating expenses. The cost was $96 and the operating expenses $24. Combining those together, we get a break even of $120. So keep in mind, this store would need to sell the item for $120 to not make money, but also not lose money. No profit and no loss. Okay. They sold the item for $100. This is the sale price. So there is an operating loss. The operating loss is the difference of the break-even point and the sale price. Our break-even was $120. However, it was sold for $100. So they're losing $20, and those $20 are partly for the expenses. An absolute loss means that the item was sold for less than the cost. Now in this case, the item was sold for $100, but the cost was $96. So in this case, the item was not sold for less than the cost. So we're going to say that there is no absolute loss. However, if you had already started to look at the absolute loss equation and you took the cost minus the sale price, notice that the cost is $96 and the sale price is $100. With this subtraction, you get a negative dollar amount. That negative dollar amount says there is no absolute loss. You can't lose a negative amount of money. Okay. Let's go on to question 6. In question 6, we have a cost of $156, operating expenses of $44. Again, we can find that break-even point by putting cost plus expenses together. Our break-even is going to be $156 plus the other $44 for expenses, and that makes a break-even point of $200. So keep in mind, break-even means no profit and no loss. In this case, we need to find the reduced price. Okay? Keep in mind, reduced price would be another way to say the sale price. Let's take that definition of operating loss. To find operating loss, we would take the break-even, and then we would subtract away the sale price. In this case, we found the break-even to be $200, and we know the operating loss is $60, and I'm going to use S for sale price. In order to solve, I'm going to subtract the 200, and I get negative 140 equals negative S, and dividing away the negative 1, I get that the sale price is $140. The item was sold for less than the break-even, so there's a $60 loss there. The absolute loss means that the item was sold for a smaller dollar amount than the item cost itself, and that is the case. So to find absolute loss, we take the cost minus the sale price. Our cost was $156, and the item's sale or reduced price was $140. So that absolute loss is $16. We're going to go with one more question before we end our second video. Question 7 has a desk was originally priced at $837.50, and it's reduced to $686.75. The only thing we're being asked is to find the percent of markdown. Remember, to find the percent of markdown, we can start with a fraction with the markdown dollar amount, and it's always on top of the original price. So let's calculate the markdown dollar amount. The markdown is going to be the difference between what it originally cost and the sale price. That's how much it was marked down. $837.50 minus $686.75. I get a markdown amount of $150.75. That's our numerator. The denominator is the original price, and again, it's always the original price when you're looking at markdowns, and that's going to be the $837.50. The fraction bar means divide, so we're going to divide straight down. $150.75 divided by $837.50. As a decimal, I get 0.18, and that converts to 18%. So it's an 18% markdown from the original price.